नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम् नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम् यशोदाभियोलुकलाधवमानं पराम् यशोदाभियोलुकलाधवमानं परमृष्टमत्यन्ततो धृत्य गोप्या परमृष्टमत्यन्ततो धृत्य गोप्या रुदन्तं मुहुर्नेत्र युग्ममृजन्तं करम्बोजयुग्मेन सातङ्कनेत्रम् रुदन्तं मुहुर्नेत्र युग्मं मृजन्तं करम्बोजयुग्मेन सातङ्कनेत्रम् मुहुश्वासकम्प त्रिरेखान्तकान्त मुहुश्वासकम्प त्रिरेखान्तकान्त स्थितग्रीव दामोदरं भक्तिबद्धम् स्थितग्रीव दामोदरं भक्तिबद्धम् इति दृक्स्वलीलाभिरानन्दकुण्डे स्वघोषं निमज्जन्तम् आख्यापयन्तम् इति दृक्स्वलीलाभिरानन्दकुण्डे स्वघोषं निमज्जन्तम् आख्यापयन्तम् तदीयसितागेषु भक्तेर्जिता त्वम् तदीयसितागेषु भक्तेर्जिता त्वम् पुनः प्रेमतस्तं सतवृत्ति वन्दे पुनः प्रेमतस्तं सतवृत्ति वन्दे परं देवमोक्षं न मोक्षं बधिं वा न चन्यं गृह्णेऽहं वरेशादपीह वरं देवमोक्षं न मोक्षं बधिं वा न चन्यं गृह्णेऽहं वरेशादपीह इदं देवपूर्णाथ गोपाल बालम् इदं देवपूर्णाथ गोपाल बालम् सदा मे मनस्य विरस्तं किमन्ये सदा मे मनस्य विरस्तं किमन्ये idam te mukham bhojam achanta nile vritam kuntale snigdha raktasya gopya. Idam te mukham bhojam atyanta nile vitam kuntale snigdha raktasya gopya. Idam te mukham bhojam atyanta nile muhushumbitam bimba raktadharam me Muhushumbitam bimba raktadharam me Manasya virastamalam lakshalabher Manasya virastamalam lakshalabher Namo Deva Damodarananta Vishnu Prasiddha Prabho Dukha Jalabdi Magnam Namo Deva Damodarananta Vishnu Prasiddha Prabho Dukha Jalabdi Magnam Kripa drishti vrishtyati dinam bhatanu Kripa drishti vrishtyati dinam bhatanu Grihane shamamagyam edakshi deshe Grihane shamamagyam edakshi deshe Kuveratmajao baddha mrutye yadva Tvayamochitao bhakti bhajau kritau cha Kuveratmajao baddha mrutye yadva Tvayamochitao bhakti bhajau kritau cha Tata prema bhaktim swakame prayacha Tata prema bhaktim swakame prayacha Namo kshegraho meshti damodareha Namo kshegraho meshti damodareha Namo kshegraho Namaste stu damne suradipti damne Svadiyodaraya sta vishvasya damne Namaste stu damne suradipti damne Svadiyodaraya sta Namaste stu damne spuradipti damne Svadiyodaraya tha vishvasya damne Namo Radhikaya Tvadiya Priyaya Namo Radhikaya Tvadiya Priyaya Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam Namamishwaram Satchidanandarupam Lasatkundalam Gokule Vrajamanam. Namamishwaram Satchidanandarupam Lasatkundalam Gokule Vrajamanam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Jaya Radha Damodara Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodara Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodara Shri Radhe. Jai Radha Vallabha Shri Radhe. Jai Radha Vallabha Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Vallabha Shri Radhe. Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Radha Damodar ki, Shri Satyavata Muni ki. To the Supreme Controller who possesses an eternal form of blissful knowledge, whose glistening earring swing to and fro, who manifested himself in Gokula, who stole the butter that the gopis kept hanging from the rafters of their storerooms, and who then quickly jumped up and ran in retreat in fear of Mother Yashoda, but was ultimately caught. To that Supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, I offer my humble obeisances.
Upon seeing his mother's whipping stick, he cried and rubbed his eyes again and again with his two lotus hands. His eyes were fearful and his breathing quick. And as Mother Yashoda bound his belly with ropes, he shivered in fright and his pearl necklace shook. To this Supreme Lord, Sri Damodara, who is bound with the rifts with his devotees' love, I offer my humble obeisances.
Those super excellent pastimes of Lord Krishna's babyhood, Drown the inhabitants of Gokula in pools of ecstasy. For those who are only attracted to his majestic aspect of Narayan and Vaikuntha, the Lord Hare reveals, I am only conquered and overwhelmed by pure loving devotion. To the Supreme Lord Sri Damodarama, obeisances hundreds of times.
Oh Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of gifts, I do not pray to you for liberation or eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon. My only prayer is that your childhood pastimes may constantly appear in my mind. Oh Lord, I do not even want to know the feature of Paramatma. I simply wish that your childhood pastimes may ever be enacted in my heart.
O Lord, the cheeks of your blackish lotus face, which is encircled by locks of curling hair, have become reddened like bimba fruits due to Mother Yashoda's disease. What more can I describe than this? Millions of opulences are of no use to me, but may this vision constantly remain in my mind.
O unlimited Vishnu, O Master, O Lord, be pleased upon me. I am drowning in the ocean of sorrow and I am almost like a dead man. Please shower the rain of mercy on me, uplift me and protect me with your nectar and peace.
O Lord, the entire universe was a gift from your it was bound with the rope of to this rope I offer my humble obeisance. I offer my obeisance to the most beloved Srimati Radharani, and to your unlimited love.
For the pleasure of the Lordship, Shri Gaurnitai, Shri Radha Vallabh, Shri Jagannath Balada Subhadra, Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. Daily score report for Saturday, 22nd of October. Books distributed. Hana, one small for 0.25 book points. Raghunath Vijay Prabhu, one medium for 0.5 book points. Wrong scene, three small for 0.75 book points. Sivya, one Mahabig for 2 book points. Veer Chandra Prabhu, 2 small, 1 medium, 1 big, 1 Mahabig for 4 book points. Madan Mataji, 3 Mahabig for 6 book points. Luke Prabhu, 2 small, 2 big, 2 Mahabig for 6.5 book points. Gokula Sundari Mataji, 10 small, 5 big for 7.5 book points. Zek Prabhu, 11 small, 2 medium, 2 big and 2 Mahabig for 9.75 book points. Bhishma Pitama Prabhu, 5 small, 4 big, 3 Mahabig for 11.25 book points. Ramesh Prabhu, 7 small, 4 big, 3 Mahabig for 11.75 book points. Bhaktilata Mataji, 11 small, 7 big, 3 Mahabig for 15.75 book points. Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu, 1 small, 6 big, 7 Mahabig for 20.25 book points. Jait Prabhu, 11 small, 7 big, 6 Mahabig for 21.75 book points. Nanda Gopal Prabhu, 12 Mahabig for 24 book points. Hemant Prabhu, 14 small, 5 medium, 3 big and 10 Mahabig for 29 book points. And Mukund Krishna Prabhu, 1 medium and 1 Śrīmad Bhāgavatam set for 72.5 book points. That gives the daily total of 78 small, 10 medium, 41 big, 53 Mahabig, and 1 Śrīmad Bhāgavatam set for 243.5 book points. Books distributed this week. Hana 1 small 0.25 book points. Wrong Scene 3 small 0.75 book points. Windham Hare Krishna Center 1 medium for 1 book point. 1 big for 1 book points. Kavya Mataji 2 small 1 medium for 1 book point. Lalita Leela Mataji 1 Mahabig for 2 book points. Sanatan Giridhari Prabhu 1 Mahabig for 2 book points. Sivya 1 Mahabig for 2 book points. Atul Prabhu 1 Mahabig for 2 book points. Prema Gaurangi Mataji 1 Mahabig for 2 book points. Raghunath Vijay Prabhu 1 medium and 1 Mahabig for 2.5 book points. Veer Chandra Prabhu 2 small, 1 medium, 1 big and 1 Mahabig for 4 book points. Madan Mohini Mataji 3 Mahabig for 6 book points. Luke Prabhu 2 small, 2 big and 2 Mahabig for 6.5 book points. Gokul Sundari Mataji 10 small, 5 big for 7.5 book points. Matsya Mataji 2 small, 1 medium and 4 Mahabig for 9 book points. Zach Prabhu 11 small, 2 medium, 2 big and 2 Mahabig for 9.75 book points. Bhishma Pitama Prabhu 5 small, 4 big, 3 Mahabig for 11.25 book points. Ramesh Prabhu 7 small, 4 big, 3 Mahabig for 11.75 book points. Gopa Vrindesh Prabhu 7 Mahabig for 14 book points. Bhaktilata Mataji 11 small, 7 big, 3 Mahabig for 15.75 book points. Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu 1 small, 6 big, 7 Mahabig for 20.25 book points. Nanda Gopal Prabhu 12 Mahabig for 24 book points. Hemant Prabhu 14 small, 5 medium, 3 big, 10 Mahabig for 29 book points. Zed Prabhu 16 small, 10 big, 11 Mahabig for 36 book points. Hari Sevika Mataji 1 Śrīmad Bhāgavatam set for 72 book points, and Mukund Krishna Prabhu 1 medium and 1 Śrīmad Bhāgavatam set for 72.5 book points. That gives the weekly total of 87 small, 12 medium, 45 big, 74 Mahabig and 2 Śrīmad Bhāgavatam set for 364.75 book points. Preaching score, Radha Chaibar 130 guests for 1558 Lakshmi points. Crossways 263 guests for 2239 Lakshmi points. Gopals 221 guests for 2652 Lakshmi points. That gives the daily total of 614 guests for 6449 Lakshmi points. Weekly preaching score, Radha Chaibar 682 guests for 8170 Lakshmi points. Gopals 1216 guests for 15143 Lakshmi points. And Crossways 2135 guests for 18156 Lakshmi points. That gives the weekly total of 4033 guests for 41469 Lakshmi points. Lakshmi liberated. Hana 5, Sivya 12, Rongsin 15, Raghunath Vijay Prabhu 20, Veer Chandra Prabhu 30, Madan Mohini Mataji 30, Luke Prabhu 50, Gokul Sundari Mataji 77, Zach Prabhu 80, Ramesh Prabhu 80, Bhaktilata Mataji 122, Bhishma Prabhu 144, Nanda Gopal Prabhu 197, Jait Prabhu 206, Hemant Prabhu 264, Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu 278, Mukund Krishna Prabhu 365, and member services 8342. That gives the daily total of 10,317 Lakshmi points. Lakshmi liberated this week, Hana 5, Windham Hare Krishna Center 10, Naman Prabhu 10, Sivya 12, Sanatan Giridhari Prabhu 15, Rongsin 15, Lalita Leela Mataji 20, Atul Prabhu 23, Madan Mohini Mataji 30, Veer Chandra Prabhu 30, Raghunath Vijay Prabhu 35, Kavya Mataji 40, Matsya Mataji 44, Luke Prabhu 50, Prem Gaurangi Mataji 60, Gokul Sundari Mataji 77, Ramesh Prabhu 80, Gopa Vindesh Prabhu 80, Zach Prabhu 80, Bhakti Lata Mataji 122, Bhishma Prabhu 144, Nanda Gopal Prabhu 197, Hemant Prabhu 264, Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu 278, Hari Sevika Mataji 300, Zait Prabhu 318, Mukund Krishna Prabhu 365, Farm Retreat 790, temple shop 1948, and member services 11,292. That gives the weekly running total of 16,734. Sankirtan Yagna ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya. Jaya Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma. Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma. Guru Charana Padma Bhakti Sadma. Banda moyi savadhan bate. Banda moyi savadhan bate. Banda moyi savadhan mate. Banda moyi savadhan mate. Jahara prasade bha e bhava turiya jahara prasade bha Jahara prasade bha e bhava turiya jahara Krishna prapti hoye jaha hote. Krishna prapti hoye jaha hote. Krishna prapti hoye jaha hote. Krishna prapti hoye. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Koriya Kya. Mukha Padma Vakya Kya. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Koriya Kya. Koriya kya ana koriyo mane asha. Ana koriyo mane asha. Ana koriyo mane asha. Ana koriyo श्री गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे उत्तम गति गति श्री गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे उत्तम गति गुरु चरणे ऐसे उत्तम गति जे प्रसाद पूरे सर्व आशा जे प्रसाद पूरे सर्व आशा चक्षुदान दिलो दे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलो दे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलो दे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु दिव्य ज्ञान दे तो प्रक्षितो दिव्य ज्ञान दिव्य ज्ञान दे तो प्रक्षितो दिव्य ज्ञान प्रेम भक्तिया होले अविद्या विनाशायते प्रेम भक्तिया होले अविद्या विनाशायते प्रेम भक्तिया होले अविद्या विनाशायते विनाशायते वेदेगा जहर चरितो वेदेगा जहर चरितो वेदेगा जहर चरितो वेदेगा जहर चरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अदम जनारा बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अदम बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अदम जनारा बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अदम जनारा बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अदम बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अदम जनारा बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा जनारा बंधु लोके ना लोके जीवाना लोके ना लोके ना लोके जीवाना लोके हाँ हाँ प्रभु को दया दे हमारे प्रभु को दया दे हमारे जया हाँ हाँ प्रभु को दया दे हमारे प्रभु हाँ हाँ प्रभु को दया दे हमारे पापा छाया हाँ प्रभु करो दया दे हमारे पद छाया प्रभु करो दया दे हमारे पद छाया प्रभु करो दया दे पद छाया हे बेया गुशु त्रिभुवाना हे बेया गुशु त्रिभुवाना पाना श्रीला प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना श्रीला प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना प्रभुपाद श्रीला गुरुदेव लोहिला चराना श्रीला गुरुदेव हाँ हाँ प्रभु करो दया दे हमारे पद छाया हे बेया कुशु त्रिभुवाना श्रीला प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा श्रीला प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Jai Jai Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Jai Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini Namah Bhutale Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare good, good. Krishna Krishna, you're doing good, good, good. Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Rama, Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Rama, Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Rama, Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Rama, Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jaya Baldeva Jaya Subhadra. Jagannatha Baldeva Jaya Subhadra. Jai Radha Vallabh Shri Radhe. Jai Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Jai Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Nitya Gaur Hari Bol Nitya Gaur Hari Bol. Nitya Gaur Hari Bol. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Sankirtan Yajna ki. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramhams Parivrajacharya, Stotas His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramhams Parivrajacharya, Stotas His Divine Grace. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। जमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी महारानी की जय। साम वेद भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। श्री 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 जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा माई की जय। श्री 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 राधा वल्लभ भगवान की जय। मेलबर्न महाप्रभु मंदिर की जय। संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय। जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai.
Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana. Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana. Jaya Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Jai Mishwad Paramahansa Prabhupada Ashtadhara Shri Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananda Kodi Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhari Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Grandhara Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 17, entitled Mother Parvati Curses Chitraketu, verses 16 and 17. Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam Shaptas Chitraketur Vimanadavaruhyasaha Prasadayamasa Satim Murdhna Narmena Bharata. Evam Shaptas Chitraketur Vimanadavaruhyasaha Prasadayamasa Satim Murdhna Narmena Bharata. Evam Shaptas Chitraketur Vimanadavaruhyasaha Prasadayamasa Satim Murdhna Narmena Bharata. Shri Shuka Uvacha Mudra Narmena Bharata. Shri Shugovacha. Evam Shapta Chitraketu. Vimanadavarūhya saha. Sadhyamasa satim. Mudra Narmena Bharata. Mataji. Shri Shukovacha. Evam Shabja Stitraketu. Vimanadavarūhya saha. Prasadayamasa sati. Murdhna Narmena Bharata. Shri Shukovacha. Evam Shapta Chitraketur. Vimanadavarūhya saha. Prasadayamasa sati. Mudhna Narmena Bharata. Shri Shukovacha. Evam Shapta Chitraketur. Vimanadavarūhya saha. Prasadayamasa satim. Mudhna Narmena Bharata. Word-to-word translation, responsibly please. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Shri Shukadev Goswami said. Evam. Thus. Shaptaha. Cursed. Chitraketuhu. King Chitraketu. Vimanat. From his airplane. Avaruhya. Coming down. Saha. He. Prasadayam asa. Completely pleased. Satim. Parvati. Murdhna. By his head. Narmena. Bent low. Bharata. O King Parikshit. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, My dear King Parikshit, when Chitraketu was cursed by Parvati, he descended from his airplane, bowed before her with great humility, and pleased her completely. Verse 17, there's no purport to this. Chitraketurvacha pradigranami te shapam atmano anjalinam bige dever martyaya yat proktam purvadishtam hitasyatat. Chitraketu said, My dear mother, with my own hands folded together, I accept the curse upon me. I do not mind the curse, for happiness and distress are given by the demigods as a result of one's past deeds. There is a beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada. Since Chitraketu was a devotee of the Lord, he was not at all disturbed by the curse of Mother Parvati. He knew very well that one suffers or enjoys the results of one's past deeds as ordained by Daiva Netra, superior authority, or the agents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knew that he had not committed any offense at the lotus feet of Lord Shiva or the goddess Parvati. Yet he has been punished, and this means that the punishment had been ordained. Thus the king did not mind it. A devotee is naturally so humble and meek that he accepts any condition of life as a blessing from the Lord. Tattenu kampam susamikshamaanaha. Bhagavatam 10:14-8. A devotee always accepts punishment from anyone as the mercy of the Lord. If one lives
in this conception of life, he sees whatever reverses occur to be due to his past misdeeds. And therefore, he never accuses anyone. On the contrary, he becomes increasingly attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because of his being purified by his suffering. Suffering, therefore, is also a process of purification. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in this connection that one who has developed Krishna consciousness and who exists in love with Krishna is no longer subject to suffering and happiness under the laws of karma. Indeed, he is beyond karma. The Brahma Samhita says, Karmani nirdahati kintucha bhakti bhajam. A devotee is free from the reactions of his karma because he has taken to devotional service. The same principle is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Sagunan samadittetan brahma bhuyaya kalpade. One who is engaged in devotional service has already been freed from the reactions of his material karma, and thus he immediately becomes Brahma Bhuta or transcendental. This is also explained in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 1:2-21. Kshiyante chasya karmani. Before attaining the stage of love, one becomes free from all results of karma. The Lord is very kind and affectionate toward his devotees, and therefore a devotee in any condition is not subjected to the results of karma. A devotee never aspires for the heavenly planets. The heavenly planets, liberation and hell are non-different for a devotee. For he does not discriminate between different positions in the material world. A devotee is always eager to return home back to Godhead and remain there as the Lord's associate. This ambition becomes increasingly fervent in his heart, and therefore he does not care about material change in his life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that Maharaj Chitraketu's being cursed by Parvati should be considered the mercy of the Lord. The Lord wanted Chitraketu to return to Godhead as soon as possible, and therefore he terminated all the reactions of his past deeds. Acting through the heart of Parvati, the Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart, cursed Chitraketu in order to end all his material reactions. Thus, Chitraketu became Vritrasura, the demon, in the next life and returned home back to Godhead. Om Ajnanatimrantasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanutam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanutamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bhutair Yaima Puro Vibhu Nirmaya Shete Yadamusha Purusha Bhungte Gunan Shodasha Shodachatmaka Solankrishishta Bhagavan Vacham Sime. Hare Krishna. This episode of Chitraketu is continuing in this chapter and in these verses. Here, Chitraketu has already been cursed by Mother Parvati. She is also a great devotee. She is a demigoddess. However, she happened to curse Chitraketu, who is also a pure devotee. In this verse, we can see 3 levels of realities. In this verse and purport, we can see that we are dealing with 3 kinds of realities, which are all important. They are all pertinent to our life. On one level, we can see material ups and downs of this world. Chitraketu was flying high everywhere. He had access to different planets. He could go anywhere in airplane. He was surrounded by beautiful women, apsaras. He was at the same time singing the glories of the Lord. And now if you see, he's from such a high position. And before that, please try to remember what happened to Chitraketu before attaining this higher position as a Vidyadhara and traveling throughout. He was lamenting miserably for a child. Then, finally he got a child. Then, he lost the child. Can you see? On one side, if you see, even if you go back, Chitraketu, as a king, he had been very happy as a royal prince, living a royal life. He was very happy. But when he didn't have the child, he became very miserable. Then he got the child, he became very happy, extremely happy, exceedingly happy. Then he lost the child, he became most miserable. And then, by the arrangement of the Lord, through Narada Muni and Angira Rishi, he got transcendental wisdom and he got over it. So he didn't have the child, but he got over it. Then he became a devotee and he was seriously practicing Krishna consciousness. And in a short period, he got the darshan of Lord Sankarshan himself. Right? Anantadev. He got the darshan. And he got the personal meeting of the Lord. And he got the means to worship the Lord. From there, he went to higher planets where he became Vidyadhara, where he could travel everywhere and he had all mystic perfections. So can you see, even in this one episode, how many ups and downs are there? In a major fashion, not just a small thing. Small ups and downs we can see in one day in our life. In a 1 hour we can see. We feel up or down. However, in the span of Chitraketu's life, there were major calamities and major gains. So now he is a devotee. However, being a devotee looks like he is still susceptible to material ups and downs. As we can see here, Mother Parvati cursed him. Now, if you think about this ups and downs, it is very, very natural and obvious to identify with material gains and losses. It is very natural, isn't it? We are for it. It is our extension, our gains and losses. We feel part of it. We feel very much affected by that. Interestingly, if we gain something, we really feel that we are very capable, we deserve, And this is the way the world should work to function. We naturally feel that we are capable. Have you experienced? Especially if we gain one thing after another, we feel we are capable. I am able to do that. It is my abilities. Yes. Then, at the same time, if we lose miserably, then we feel exactly the opposite. I am incapable. The world is not fair. Why for me? So many negativities that drop into our consciousness. So we can see this gains and losses and how we get identified with all this all the time. At the same time, we can see that the life can take its turn any time. I remember when I came to Melbourne as a student, I was staying kind of a shared accommodation, you can say, as a paying guest. And the landlord was so much careful about looking after the house. It's extreme. And I am not at all used to looking after things so much. And it was a drastic shift for me, coming from India and living in that place. And it's like you cannot have one spoon in the sink. More than a minute, immediately he will get on the case. It was almost like a military. And he's cleaning all the time. He's just, looking after the house all the time. So probably I lived there for, maybe a few months. And then I could see he's completely after the house. Later I found out that this house doesn't belong to him. Okay, then the question comes, okay, it doesn't belong to him. Then why is he so attached? So the point was that he was expecting that he's going to inherit that house. So it belonged to his older sister or someone who left or who was going to leave. So he was putting all his heart in that house, expecting that he is going to own that house. So he was looking after as his dearmost object in life. And he didn't have a family, he was single. And then, later I moved out. Later we had a common friend. He told that, look, this guy lost the house. In inheritance, he didn't get the house. He looked after that house for many years, but he didn't get the house. Can you see, this is material world. There is not necessarily we get a fair share. There is no guarantee. It was quite funny, and we were all talking, look at that. What is this? And in life, people have to go through huge endeavors. And it is irrespective of who, where, what, one has to endeavor very hard. Even if somebody is a simple shopkeeper or a big businessman, can you see huge endeavor? Isn't it? I have seen shops in India. They start, open 9 o'clock. They're till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Most of the hours, the owner is sitting there. A simple shop owner, spending so much of time. Pretty much 7 days or 6 days. And if you are a big business person, still a lot of endeavor. The same. So, Shastra says, avidya, karma, sapnya, atra. That is avidya. If the one is in ignorance, one has to endeavor very hard for material purpose. It doesn't matter which one. That is our material situation. Big or small, but one will be very much occupied. So that is his material situation. And investment. If you invest something, one day up, one day down. And one's heart is affected so much. Isn't it? It's the reality. It is applicable for everyone. Whether one is a devotee or not, one gets so much moved by that. Because one feels the life is hanging. So this is the material ups and downs. And we can see that we have gone through so much, isn't it? If you have lived a life a few years, if you are at least 30, 40, one can really feel, we have seen a lot. Ups and downs. As children, one may not be able to see. As teens, can't see. Even early 20s may not feel so much. But then one starts seeing, we are going through a lot in this life. Then the natural conclusion is, life is meant to be like that. This is the lesson. Life is meant to be like that. There will be ups and downs, suffering. Yeah. Maybe suffering is there, that's okay. Still, there is a hope. I will have a good time in the future. So that hope keeps everyone moving. Like ahani ahani bhutani, as Yudhishthira Maharaj said. So many people are going to the hellish planets, but sheshastavaram ichhanto atha ascharyam atha para. What is more amazing than that? That those who are remaining think, I will have a good time. So this is the reality. Then, if one is going through all good times, it can make one very proud and arrogant. That also we have seen. And otherwise, one is humbled. So we can see in our nature how these things influence. So from here, when we go through the whole thing, an intelligent person can understand that yes, there are ups and downs in this world. That is the first reality, that they are not in our control. And they can come to the second reality, that it's not that everything is in our control. So at least if one comes to that point, that is the beginning of seeing the reality, seeing the second reality. That it's not that everything is in our control. Everything is not in our control. Rather, there are many things which are beyond us, which are practically unpredictable. So we tend to accept, okay, there is something beyond. And that's where, with little bit of knowledge, one comes to understand that whatever is happening now is because of our past deeds. So first can be, if one is only attached to the current realities, which are material ups and downs, and one is endeavoring just to adjust those situations, that is pretty much an atheistic vision. I just work, I get, but it doesn't work like that, right? People think, I work, I get it. It doesn't work. I will work more, I will get more money. It doesn't work like that. So the next one is dharmic. The second vision, the second reality is dharmic, where one is able to see that there is something beyond me. And that is really a good step. One tend to accept destiny. There are things which are destined. It's not that everything is in our control. There are many things which are destined. And that is a dharmic vision. Dharmic means according to religious principles. It's a good vision. That in itself will help a person to be peaceful. Is it true? That even though it may sound like just a folklore or a concoction, but that vision actually helps one to be a bit more peaceful. Because we come to the understanding that, look, what we are going through, it's not just my actions in this lifetime. Rather, I existed always, and so one has to accept karma. In other words, if I act properly now, I can have a better future. So this is basically the dharmic vision. So when we come to the Vedic culture is based on this dharmic vision. Srila Prabhupada gives this example of a food shortage caused by British in India. In Calcutta, there was a huge famine, and the famine, it was artificial. It was orchestrated by the British. And people went through a lot of suffering. However, Britishers was very much surprised to see that people were still quite peaceful and content, even though they were going through so much of difficulties. This is because they accepted, okay, this is something, it happened because of our past deeds. We can see that. The Prabhupada said that when people have this kind of faith, naturally people are a bit peaceful. It's not the end of it. People are a bit peaceful. And the opposite we can see in this life, and especially in the modern age. Because they cannot be happy in any situation. Just endeavoring hard, but getting into frustration, anxiety, anger, right? Naturally. It's not that we endeavor for something, the results will come immediately. It doesn't happen. Even if you wait, it may not come. And that can cause so much of frustration, anger, and so many different kinds of frustrations that emerge. especially old people in India, lived based on this principle. Just dharmic. No, they may not know so much spiritual. To some degree they know, but not fully. Still, the interesting thing is that they lived quite a bit peacefully. I know even personal stories of farmers. They work hard for many months. The crop is ready to reap. But what happens? Then rain comes or some natural calamities. Everything is lost like that. They accept. Personally, I have heard and seen people who accept. This is by the arrangement of God. Still we have to push through. It happens. Everything is lost. Months of hard work is in the drain. But still they accept and they move on. But what's the natural thing now happens among the farmers? Suicide. It's exactly the opposite. Because this is I'm talking about in India. It's the same thing. Cannot accept the reality. Can't move on. Same here. Even in the Western world, we are first world, we are living here. If we remove the social support, what will happen? At least for some time, people cannot handle. There will be a chaos in the society, for sure. Because we are a welfare state. There are so much of support from the government. And if it is removed, there will be a lot of chaos. There will be a lot of violence, even. So this is the reality. Can you understand? When we accept, okay, there are things which are destined and things are not in our control, that is a big step in spiritual life. It's a big step. Even for devotees, it can be very challenging to accept. One can be very easily be swayed. But this is the reality. Now, if we move to the third reality, so on one level, it is what we perceive through our senses, the ups and downs, and one tries to adjust that. Srila Prabhupada said, very interestingly about technology, he stripped off the glamour of technology by his statement. Because technology has a lot of glamour, right? We are making progress because we have technology. Prabhupada said, what is technology? Prabhupada said, technology is nothing but a response to suffering. That's technology. In other words, it's a response to dualities of this world. That's all. It is nothing great if we really think about it. So I will read few verses from Bhagavatam, not on technology, but on life. But it makes it very clear. Bhagavatam is known to strip off that glamour, that extra layer, and show the reality. Like Prabhupada, he does all the time. What is technology? If there is very cold, we need a heater. That's technology, right? It's a response to material suffering. If it is very hot, we need aircon or a fan. It is response to suffering. I don't have the ability to speak to my parents in India without technology. I don't have that ability. But in the Vedic times, they had subtle technology. They could speak. They could communicate to people somewhere else. Even speaking of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, how many people were listening Śrīmad Bhāgavatam? Was it one or two? Thousands and thousands of devotees or Vedic people were listening Śrīmad Bhāgavatam when? Yes, Shukadeva Goswami was speaking Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Was there any microphone? Was there any mention of microphone there? No, there was no mention of microphone there. Thousands upon thousands of people were listening on the earthly planet, on the heavenly planet. They were all listening to the discussion of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam day in and day out for 7 days and 7 nights. But there was no technology. Were they able to listen? Yes, they were able to listen. Because as a speaker, Shukadeva Goswami knew his audience. They were pure, so they were able to listen. They had the capacity to listen. So this is amazing if you think about it, isn't it? We had technology on a different scale altogether back then. It was not, the Stone Age people, as we think. That is the modern history. We had all Stone Age people who didn't know anything. Hand to mouth, just to eat. But in the Vedic times, if you consider Satyuga, even some of them lived in the caves, but with the highest consciousness. They didn't have any time to waste time on unnecessarily even doing farming. They were just accepting milk and fruits. That's it. We can see from Bhagavatam, only at the time of Prithu Maharaj, tilling the land started. Only at the time of Prithu Maharaj. So the initial phase, there was no agriculture. There was no need of agriculture because they had least demand. So because their focus was very clear. Prabhupada would give the example of ancient India where farmers would work for 4 months or so. He gives 4 months or 5 months they work, have enough grains for the rest of the year. Rest of the time they spend in spiritual cultivation. This is a different life altogether. So even few decades back, we had a better civilization in many respects. Now we will go to Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. As part of the reality, we will hear a few verses which is telling the truth. This is from the 5th canto, 5th chapter. So this is a famous chapter. The teachings of Rishabhdev unto Maharaj Bharat. So there's a very famous verse, Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma. You all heard this verse. So in this verse it's mentioned, I'll read a bit of its translation. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, please meditate on this point. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living. Can we see in our life? Can we see around us? Isn't it so true? This one line is everything. It's not a full line. This part of the sentence is true in this world, isn't it? That's what this whole life is all about. Then it continues, and engages in all kinds of sinful activities. Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma. Why? Yet indriya priti apranoti. Because of indriya priti. When sense gratification is forefront of our consciousness, one may do anything. One loses intelligence. So we cannot consider desire for material sense gratification as innocent. It's not. It can cause serious problems because it can engage one in sinful activities. And then, here is the point, he does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. So when we are talking about misery, what is the first misery? What is the vehicle of misery? This body itself. And that is because of past misdeeds. So the body which we are all trying to enjoy, that body in itself is the vehicle of misery. Here, Rishabhdev is driving this point very clear. And it is really worth meditating, at least when strongly our senses are pushing, or strongly the material desires are pushing us. It happens for everyone, right? In all different ways, subtle or gross, material desires do come to our mind. And it is worth thinking, another fulfillment of those material desires means another material body, and going through the same thing again. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. So it is like misery, from one misery to another misery. Dukkha dukkham, Prahlad Maharaj says. Dukkha dukkham, one misery to another misery. So this is the life. And then the next verse is another one, Parabhavastavat abhoda jata, very famous verse. There, read one point here. As long as one does not inquire about spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subjected to miseries arising from ignorance. By its sinful or pious karma has its resultant actions. Both sin and pious activities, both are problematic. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, his mind is called karmatmaka. This word has to be very much stressed. Karmatmaka. Karmatmaka means colored by fruitive activities. In other words, one consciousness is always with material desires. It is blinded by material desires. It's like a filter. This is a karmatmaka filter. we can have different kinds of filters, right? Yellow, green, etc. This is the karmatmaka filter. And through that filter, whatever we do, it will be quite materialistic. So this is the point he's making. And so, he says, okay, one is moving from one misery to another misery. So this is the reality of this world. And we can actually feel it. If we have desire for position or money, financial success, we can see how our consciousness becomes tainted by that. For devotees, it may not be completely covered. Of course, it can happen. But at least at times can see that it is covered. The consciousness is actually covered, and it is beaming through this karmatmaka consciousness. And with that consciousness, whatever we do, it is shaded, it is colored. We can clearly see that, right? Even if you are doing chanting, even if you are doing devotional activities, we can see that taint of material desires. And the result is that we really don't so much devotional when we have that consciousness. When you have material consciousness, even if while we are performing devotions, we don't feel that. So a devotee has to be very, very careful. At the same time, here in this purport, Srila Prabhupada makes this point very clear that a devotee is beyond karmic reactions. So on one side we can see this karma bandhana, even for a devotee we can see this karmatmika. At the same time, Prabhupada makes it clear that a devotee is beyond karmic reactions. So this is something to be considered very carefully. A devotee is beyond karma. How is it possible? So we can see different aspects. One line written is, and Prabhupada actually emphasizes this point very much, giving few references, isn't it? Prabhupada says, one, he says, Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam, from Brahma Samhita, where it is mentioned, Karmani nirdahati. Nirdahati means not just, dahati means burns. Nirdahati means burnt to the core. No karma at all for devotees. Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam, for a bhakti bhak. One who is a devotee, one who has accepted bhakti. There is no karma. Then he also quotes another one, Sagunan samadityedan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who comes to the transcendental platform, going beyond the modes. Then third one he quotes is, Kshyanti chasya karmani mukta eva atmanishare. In the famous verses, progressive stages of bhakti, as mentioned in the second chapter of first canto, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. The continuing verses from Shrunatam Sagatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. The last one is this. Kshyanti chasya karmani mukta eva drishta atmani eva ishare. Seeing one as the Ishara, in the sense the controller of one's own destiny or servant of the Lord. So here, it's a very important point Prabhupada mentions here, even though he just touches upon. Before attaining the stage of love, one becomes free from all results of karma. Correct? So this actually refers to the progressive stages of bhakti, as we know, starting from Shraddha, Sadhusanga. Shraddha means faith, association of the devotees. Then Bhajana Kriya. Bhajana Kriya means practice of Krishna consciousness. In Bhajana Kriya, what happens? There becomes Anartha Nivritti. Anartha Nivritti means complete removal of anarthas or unwanted things in the heart. So as a completion of Anartha Nivritti, which is the stage of Nishtha or steady devotion service, actually one is beyond karma. In the progressive stage, then the karmic influences are very less. And that is the reason one is able to chant attentively, hearing all the name, not distracted by our own thoughts. It's the beginning of Nishtha, beginning of internal steadiness. It's not the external steadiness. External steadiness one can have even much before. One can do the same service for 20 years. One can chant 16 rounds 20 years. So one can be steady externally, but that is not necessarily the symptom of Nishtha. So the symptom of Nishtha is internal steadiness. And if there is internal steadiness, naturally there will be external steadiness. Because external steadiness can come even one is dutiful by nature. Right? If somebody is dutiful, one may be able to do some activity every day. Because one is duty bound. But that's not necessarily the symptom of Nishtha. So this actually hints that, okay, in the progressive path of bhakti, one gets freed from karma, karmic reactions. And because that's the reason there is this term klesha agni. Kleshas, klesha agni. Gna means to destroy. Kleshas are destroyed in the stage of nishtha. It is completed in nishtha. Klesha, agni and shubhada. These are the two characteristics of steady devotion service. Nishtha bhajana kriya. So where one is able to chant properly, one is able to do devotional service properly, and also shubhada means one has good qualities. Everyone sees good qualities in a devotee. So it's very natural to that. Second, that is one aspect of this. Next one is Krishna looks after his devotees. Krishna protects his devotees. This is a very important point. A devotee is under the shelter of Krishna. And who is a devotee? Everyone is a devotee. But let's consider a serious devotee. A serious devotee means chanting 16 rounds and following 4 regularity principles. This is a serious devotee. One is surrendered to chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every day and follow 4 regularity principles. And for such a devotee, definitely such a devotee is under Krishna's shelter. There is direct hand of Krishna in such a devotee's life. Can we see that we might have practiced Krishna consciousness for a few years? Just reflect on your own life. How many times Krishna has protected you, and that's why you are continuing your Krishna consciousness? Just think about yourself. It's not 1, it's not 2, right? So many times Krishna has helped us and protected us, and that is the only reason we are able to practice Krishna consciousness now. Throughout the decisions that we have made throughout our life, and because of that we are in this position, we are at least chanting 16 rounds and following 4 regularity principles. We might have got initiated. We can see the sequence in which Krishna has guided us through his devotees, through the spiritual master, through different incidents. To the degree that in this purport, Prabhupada makes this point that even suffering is for purification. Even suffering is purification. Even for a devotee, sometimes suffering is a purification. Because if things are not going very good, we don't think so much about sense enjoyment. We may not make enjoyment plans. That's a blessing in disguise, right? So suffering can be purification. Actually, suffering is considered purification. So it is mentioned, suffering is a purification. One can be humbled, especially if someone has knowledge. For a devotee, certainly it's a purification. So here, Chitraketu accepted the curse by Mother Parvati, saying it's a blessing. In many levels. On one level, one can see that it is humbling. We can see the difficult situation humbles us. And then, if we read Bhagavad Gita, it will make more sense. Right? If we are puffed up, if we read Bhagavad Gita, it doesn't make any sense. And if we have difficulties, we read Dukkhalayam Ashashudam, it will make some sense. It's a place of misery. When we read, it makes some sense. It is a Dukkhalayam. And without that, no. Maybe Krishna is telling we have to accept, but maybe I'm having a good time. But when we go through difficulties, we tend to accept the realities of life. And that is an impetus to go back home, back to Godhead. Even the thought of going back home, back to Godhead is alien to beginning devotees. It's very alien, it's very difficult to accept. What is this going back home, back to Godhead? Just 2 days before, I was speaking to a group of newcomers in Krishna consciousness. They are from non-Indian backgrounds. And I was actually speaking about going back home, back to Godhead. They're all chanting, but they're very new. So one point was, okay, we can go back home, back to Godhead. And they were expressing, they feel it so disconnected from that thought. What is it, going back home, back to Godhead? They are able to understand, okay, now we're having a better time, we can deal with the material stress, anxiety, we can experience it. The chanting is going good, it's nice, and the philosophy makes sense. But going back home, back to God, that is like, it takes time to accept. See, as a reality, it takes time to even conceive that, okay, this is not the end of it. And here, see, a devotee who is really fixed in Krishna consciousness, see this? A devotee is always eager to return home back to Godhead and remain there as Lord's associate. This ambition becomes increasingly fervent in his heart. Fervent desire. Please feel for that. Fervent desire. And therefore, he does not care about material changes in his life. See, this is a very strong point. One is so fervent in his desire or her desire to be with Krishna, to serve Krishna in the spiritual world, that this shortcomings, problems of this world becomes insignificant. And a classic example of that is Chitraketu himself in the form of Vritrasura. Vritrasura, he was being shot. His hands are being chopped off. Has his consciousness been affected? No. All this past time we covered a few chapters before. What is he telling Indra? Indra is telling, don't be a coward. He was speaking dharma. Don't be a coward. See, these demigods are killing the demons who are fleeing away from the battlefield. It is completely against the religious principles. And these demons, who are my associates, they are running away from the battlefield. They are also acting against dharma. And don't be a coward. You know that you have the Vajra. Use the Vajra and kill me. So this is Vritrasura. So he can see, is he going through pain? Indeed, he is going through pain. The hand is chopped off. Is there any pain? Of course. Even a pin, it just pricks. We pain so much. Think about hands being chopped off, one after another. And how long it took for Indra to kill Vritrasura, even using Vajra? How many? A year? 1 full year to chop off Vritrasura. Such a long time. Has his consciousness been affected? No. So when Prabhupada writes this, it makes a complete sense. So we have such kind of exemplification, examples in the Shastra, which we already covered a few chapters before. Such a strong examples. Even despite all these difficulties, Vritrasura's consciousness was so clear. Aham Hare tava padaiga moolam dasanu daso bhavitasmi bhuya. He was telling Aham Hare tava padaiga moolam, exactly the same point. Dasanu daso bhavitasmi bhuya. Bhuya means again. Dasanu daso bhavita. When am I going to become servant of your servant again? This is the question. This is the prayer before dying. Vritrasura prays. Aham Hare tava padaiga moola dasanu daso bhavitasmi bhuya. Anyone remembers the beginning of the next line? Yeah? Manasmareta asupater gunamste grihnita vakkarma karotu kaya. Thank you, that is good. So, manasmareta asupater gunamste. I want my mind thinking about your qualities. Asupater. Asupati is a very personal address. Asupate, he is addressing Krishna, Sankarshan, as Asupati. Asu means life. Pati means the Lord of my life, the Master of my life. He is addressing personally the Lord. It is mentioned he was literally seeing the Lord and he was personally addressing the Lord as Lord of his own life. And Nita Vak Karma Karotu Kaya. And when my words will be glorifying your qualities again, and when will my body be serving you? So this is the prayer of Vritrasura. And we can see the same point, next verse. Na naga prishtam na parameshtyam. He says, I don't want the heavenly planets. I don't want to go to the Brahma's planet. I don't want to be a Brahma. Na rasatalam cha. I don't want even rasatalam. I don't even want lower planetary system where there are opulences. What he wants? If it is actually not giving servitorship to you, then I don't want anything. So there is an internal conversation that is taking place between Vrtrasura and the Supreme Lord. The Lord is telling, I'll give you this. You want me? Yes, I am with you. I'll give you heavenly pleasures. Vrtrasura is telling, no. Na parameshtim, I don't want. I will give you sarvabhaumam. I will give you the sovereignty of the entire universe. He's saying, no, I don't want that. I'll give you everything. He's saying, I don't want anything. So this is the consciousness of Vrtrasura. And then he says, Ajata paksham iva mataram ghaga stanyam yadha varsaratha kshudartha priyam priyeva vyushata vishanna manoravindaksha didrikshadetvam. He says, he gives 3 examples to make his point. He says, Ajata paksham iva mataram ghagaha. How these little birds whose wings are not yet grown, they are completely dependent on their mother. Ajata paksham, ajata, unborn. Paksham means the wings. Iva, just like ghagaha. To whom they are waiting for? Mataram, they are waiting for their mother. Because they are dependent. They cannot eat anything without the mother. They cannot go, they cannot do anything. And also, the prey can come and kill them. They can eat them. Such is the precarious position of these baby birds. And he is telling, that is my position. And we also have to feel in the same way. That is the point. The life in this material world is precarious. Padam padam yat vipadam. We have heard, we have seen, but we are so forgetful. So he says, Ajada paksham iva mataram ghaga stanyam yatha vatsaratha kshudartha. A vatsa, a calf who is very, very hungry. A calf cannot drink anything without mother cow. Right? So, vatsaratha kshudartha, pain because of hunger. And there we can see more closer connection. Because he has more feeling for the mother. And mother is also very attached to the calf, right? And then he concludes that Sanyam yadha valsaratha kshudartha priyam priyeva vishata vishanna. Then he gives the example of a lover and a beloved. He gives, just like a lover is attached to the beloved. So there is showing a higher rasa. Because there the exchange is more complete compared to other examples of cow or the bird. So he's showing, in the same way, mano ravindaksha didrikshadattvam. In the same way, I desire you. My mind is going towards you. I'm attached to you. So you can see very clearly from this purport what Prabhupada is actually talking about Vrtrasura. How having obtained this demon's body, he was completely fixed on Krishna, and he didn't care about his body. He didn't care about ups and downs. Rather, he was fixed on going back home, back to Godhead. And indeed, he went back to Godhead, and that is a blessing. So that is mentioned here. Ultimately, the Lord is looking after his devotee, Chitraketu. How? The Lord, Sankarshan, wanted him back home, back to Godhead as soon as possible. So that's why it's mentioned, it was orchestrated. It was orchestrated through Mother Parvati, that she cursed such a very heavy curse for a small mistake, even if you consider it as a mistake. Because the super soul within the heart of Parvati inspired her to curse in that way. So that he had to go through this life of Vritra for a short period in one sense, and after that he could go back home, back to Godhead directly. Same example we can see in the case of Bharat Maharaj. On one level we can see that it is orchestrated by the Lord, that he got the body of a deer, but the deer's body is very short. So after that, when the deer passed away, what the deer was thinking? He was completely fixed in Krishna consciousness. Completely fixed in Krishna consciousness. Then what happened? Why? Because somebody is completely in Krishna consciousness when dying. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tejatyante kalevaram. What should happen? They should go back home, back to Godhead. Why didn't this deer go back home, back to Godhead? Think he was in full prema bhakti when he was leaving the world, deer, because his faculties or consciousness were not affected because of being in such a lower birth. Then why didn't he go back home, back to Godhead? Have you thought about it? He should have gone back home, back to Godhead, right? Then why? Any answer? Any guesses? No, because it's about the consciousness, because it's not a normal deer. He was able to hear chanting the discourses in the Pulasthya ashram. Okay, to teach King Rahugana. Yes.
One needs the human body for.
Yeah, that is there. But the main point is he was already in one sense to preach Krishna consciousness, not only for Rahugana, for all of us, because it's in the pages of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Second, when Jadaparad was born, he was in Prema Bhakti. So if somebody is in Prema Bhakti, he's already with Krishna. So he hasn't, in one sense, he is not just in the material world. Like Prabhupada. He'll be walking here, but with Krishna. So that is the consciousness of Jadaparada. And that's why he was preaching throughout his life. Okay, that's another point. I will not get into that past time. He was preaching throughout. Sometimes he used his words and sometimes he didn't. But he was giving mercy to everyone. As he was born, he was giving mercy to everyone. Including his brothers who made him a scarecrow by his darshan. He gave mercy to the Chandalas, the Asuras, who are they? The tribes who tried to kill him. Because dacoits who tried to kill him. He gave them mercy by giving them the darshan of Durga and allowing them to be chopped by Durga. So he gave everyone mercy. And because first class was in Rajogun, these people dacoits were in Tamogun, and Rahugana was in Sattva. So he gave mercy accordingly, according to their capacity. In that way, he was preaching all the time. Can you see? So this is also ordained by the Supreme Lord. So this is the hand of Krishna in everyone's life. And so, another point to understand is, devotees are beyond karma because Krishna is in control. It means that Krishna uses our karma for our purification and bring us closer to Him. So it's not that we don't go through up and down. Devotees will go through ups and downs. We can see we have experienced enough. But the point is, there is hand of Krishna. So Krishna thinks, okay, he has to go through this karmic situation. Okay. Not to the fullest extent. Okay, I'll reduce it a bit. And this area, I need a little bit more. Okay, add a bit more salt. Some chili is required. Okay. So it's the personal choice of the Lord. So that's why we can understand, for a devotee, it's not just karma, but it is the hand of Krishna. It's like cooking. Okay, spices, whatever is required, it is thrown accordingly. So from here, we can understand that, look, the three levels of reality. First one, the mundane perception of seeing ups and down and then being bound by that. Second, understanding, okay, there is something beyond, understanding the concept of karma, past deeds. In that way, one tend to accept demigods. And here, Chitraketu Maharaj makes his point that usually the demigods give the reactions to martyas. Can you remember this point? Devair martyaya yat proktam. Devaihi, by the demigods, martyaya, for the humans. The demigods, they award the karmic reactions. That is the next level of reality. And the ultimate one is the spiritual reality, which is Krishna consciousness. That Krishna is in control. So the devotees are beyond karmic reactions. Hare Krishna. Is there any quick question? Yes, Prabhu.
Haribol, speak in the mic, please.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. At what stage this reaction or this karma of a devotee we see as a hand of Krishna? As a neophyte stage or only at Nishta stage, as you
No,
said?
Krishna's hand is there everywhere. Everywhere Krishna's hand is there. Now the question is, Krishna seriously take care, means Krishna takes care of everyone all the time. Even if there is a desire, Krishna reciprocates. If there's a desire to serve Krishna, one may not be even chanting. That time Krishna, okay, this person has a desire to serve me, I'll make the arrangement. So Krishna's reciprocation is there everywhere. But when one becomes serious, Krishna becomes even more serious. So that's why I mentioned chanting 16 rounds and following 4 regulative principles, because it's not easy. Kali Yuga, following 4 regulative principles, not very easy. There are so many temptations, so many problems, and chanting 16 rounds not easy all the time, isn't it? Not easy. 2 hours. It's big if we are used to, but still, it is something. And then next level of seriousness is one surrenders to a spiritual master. Because then one is telling, okay, whatever my guru is telling, I'll follow. So there are different levels of seriousness, different levels of surrenders, and accordingly, Krishna also takes us seriously. But certainly, Krishna's hand is there. If somebody is seriously practicing Krishna consciousness, he or she is under the shelter of Krishna, for sure. There is no doubt. So we don't need to worry about before, but we are all practicing, so we have to understand, yes, it's not just karma that is happening, there is hand of Krishna. Krishna is using the karma for our own benefit. And that's why this is the most important point, which I didn't emphasize. It's given in the purport. Tatenu kampam susamikshamano bhunjana evatma kritam vivakam. Hridwag vabrbhir vidhanan namaste jiveteyo muktipade sadaya bhak. So this is a very important verse. Nectar devotion mentioned. This is a guiding principle for a devotee. Seeing whatever is happening in one's life as the mercy of the Lord. Tattenu kampa. His anukampa, his mercy. And susamikshamano. Tolerate and keep going. Bhunjana eva atma kritam vipagam. How? Bhunjana accepts. Bhunjana means one who is enjoying. Bhunjati. But enjoying means enjoying or suffering. Why? Because of atma kritam vipagam. He accepts. It's not because of Krishna, it's because of my own past deeds. And so, whatever is coming is the mercy of Krishna. It's very difficult. It's easier said than done. It's a test all the time we have to face daily, day-to-day basis. Atma kritam vipakam. And then even the one is going through that, hrit vak vaburbhir. We all have our BMW. Use our BMW. Body, mind and words. That is hrit vak and vapu. Vidadhan namaste. Always worshipping the Lord. Jiveteyo. If one who lives like that, muktipade sa daya bhak. Daya bhak means a rightful higher of muktipada. So for them, the spiritual world is guaranteed. One has to be only patient, patiently perform devotion service. That's all. That's what Prabhupada says. Chant 16 rounds, follow 4 regulative principles, one lifetime, go back home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada is giving that blessing, so it's not easy. But in the association, it's possible. Make sense? Hare Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Govinda Prabhu. Thank you very much for a wonderful class.
Hare Krishna.
Now, my question is, why, or is it easy to please Anandev? Because Anandev came to give him all the mercy. So is it easy to please Anandev? Why not other incarnation of Shankarshan?
So many
Thank you.
incarnations of God, Krishna has come. Right? Prashnigarbha came in front of Dhruva Maharaj. Narasimhadev came. So many incarnations appeared. So it is possible to please everyone. Makes sense? It's possible to please everyone. No, but that is his eternal relationship. Chitraketu Maharaj, his eternal relationship with Anantadev, with Sankarshan. That's why. So according to one's relation, one worships. It's not because of, pick one who is easy. This is like India, we have this, which god or goddess if you worship, demigod or demigoddess if you worship is easy. Oh, Shiva is Ashutosh, Kshipra Prasadi Bhagavan, Kshipra Prasadi, very easily he can be pleased. So, okay, I want to get something, I will do something. And not like that. But he didn't do.
Lord Shiva can't give.
He will not give mukti. He will not give. So I am saying, it's not a pick and choose, So it's more based on relationship. The relationship with Krishna is personal.
We have to use only Krishna. We have to use only Krishna or his incarnate.
Yeah.
Not God.
That's right. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Bhu. Well, the question is in regard to when you were mentioning about from anartha nivritti to nishtha, and you mentioned that one might be engaged as a duty, which can be external, and not necessary that's internally that person is engaged in the consciousness. So my question is, how do we know, are we just trying, when we are serving, is it just out of duty we are doing? And if it is only duty, then how do we bring our consciousness to go internal?
The simple answer is just continue as a duty. That is very good. In the association of the devotees, hear about Krishna, chant, keep doing, there will be change in our consciousness. That's all. Does that make sense? We are hearing about Krishna, so keep hearing. Be in the association, keep doing what we are doing. You are serving, so take it as service for Krishna. So we are reminded all the time. The only thing, try to do sincerely what we are doing. And that's it. And we can pray, of course.
Thank you.
Follow by that question, what's internal steadiness that you mentioned before?
Just a simple example. If one chants Krishna's names, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one mind doesn't wander. One's mind doesn't wander.
Okay.
One is able to hear. Isn't it easy? Is it easy for you?
Sometime it is, sometime.
That's the point. This is always. We are talking about always. That's called steadiness. One symptom of steadiness. One symptom of steadiness. There are many other aspects. One symptom is that. Just to understand, yeah? Okay. Thank you very much. Grantharaj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samveda Gaura Bhaktivedanta ki jai.